What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Fish Lift Eat podcast. We're glad you decided to tune back into us this Monday. There's all kind of shenanigans in line for this episode. I'm excited for it. We got the Fish Lift Eat crew here. We got Justin and Papa. What's up, fellas?
What up, fellas?
Y'all, the guest we've got with us today is I don't know which side of the spectrum he falls on for me, because he's a lot of fun to talk to, but he's also the only person to ever stand me up for a fishing trip. I get a random message of, spontaneously he's going to fly down to Georgia. We're going to fish a tournament and all this stuff. And then he just stands me up, but I still love him. I'm glad he's on here. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Milito. What's up, buddy?
What's up, fellas? Or should I say, hey, y'all?
Hey, y'all.
And so it begins.
I couldn't help myself with that one.
Oh, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on. I know it's been a long time coming, and that was not intentional, Casey. I actually, like I told you, I bought my ticket.
You bought it?
Car service. Bought it. Had my car service, and then things happened at home, and I needed to deal with that. So
if y'all are paying attention, you can tell that Frank's from Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's fucking West Coast all day.
Definitely.
He's from the foothills of Kentucky.
I'm actually from Virginia, up in Appalachia. So
at least you say it right.
Here we go, boys. Here we go.
Tell him, Frank, where are you really from, Frank?
I'm from Long Island, New York.
Long Island. So if anybody needs a good pizza pie made up, just call up old Frank.
Pizza pie.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's actually talk about fishing now. So, Frank, you had a pretty cool fishing experience at the team rendezvous here this year, didn't you?
I did. I actually had the pleasure of being taught how to fly fish for the first time by the one and only Papa Stark, man. It was awesome.
Why don't the two of y'all kind of walk us through how that came to be and what happened with it, how you were able to land that cute little critter that you had on the end of your line there, and what you're doing with it now.
I can't make him bite. I wish I could. I would have chose one a little bit bigger. So David, right? I think it was after like a call. A whole bunch of us were kind of hanging out, drinking, having a good time. And then I was like, hey man, are you coming down to rendezvous? He's like, yeah. I was like, we're going to be on a river, right? He's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I plan on bringing my fly rod. And I was like, that's cool. I've never done that. He's like, well, do you want to? And I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And that's kind of how it started. And then we just kind of, bounce back and forth about it for the coming weeks. And then, I don't know, I was just, lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time, and which made it happen.
I think that's kind of a testament to the team we have here, though. How just a spontaneous call can lead to, a guy from Oklahoma and a guy from New York meeting in Virginia on a river with a fly rod and making things happen.
Yep. So, right. I think so. That line kind of got coined, right? It was a guy. Where else can a guy from Oklahoma take a guy from Long Island, New York, and teach him how to fly fish on the New River in Virginia? Well, North Carolina. Nowhere else, man. And I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for being a part of this team, it probably would have not happened how it happened, But it was pretty sweet. And I mean, David's is a good teacher. He's super patient, and he can explain himself really well. And really, that's all it takes to really learn something. Is just someone who's willing to teach you, and someone who's patient and is just good at explaining. And then I just kind of was like, hey man, do I do it like this? And he's like, no, instead of keeping, some people do the book, right? We don't do that, David, right? He was like, just keep your arm out, and it was 10 and 2. And then I started counting a metronome, and he was like, yeah, do that if it's working. And then he would kind of tweak me. And then obviously I watched him cast probably about 4,000 times before I even took the rod. I was like, just keep doing that for me real quick so I can watch you. And then
Well, like the thing is Frankie pays really good attention, and listens and asks questions, and that's kind of a big deal, especially with casting a fly rod. And yeah, man, we got out, like he said, assessed a couple of different things, with his casting stroke, and kind of made stuff, make sense for him being a guy that was a conventional fisherman. Because I'm no certified casting instructor by any stretch. I plan to get good enough to take that test and hopefully make that happen one of these days. But one of my favorite things just in the outdoor space in general is taking people out, teaching them, but fly fishing is definitely taken, the front seat on that entire experience for me. But there's some things being left out too. Frankie tried to fucking die on me in the
a lot of
middle
things being left out, actually. Yep.
like we get out to poor Frankie, he made the drive down, in one day, and got there, and everybody just starts shoving whiskey down his throat as soon as he gets there, because we'd all been drinking for a while. And he was trying to nah, and of course, the boys will be boys, and so we had some drinks, got up that morning, kind of hosed around a little bit, and I think that we kind of determined that maybe it had a little bit to do with that, plus the difference in altitude, because Frankie's at sea level, and shout out to Chadwick on sea level there. But anyhow,
because he's the one who was shoving whiskey down my throat at midnight. So.
Yeah, that too. The sea level thing is a joke. Some shit Chad said one night on a call that I don't know if it got recorded or not, but it was some of the funniest shit I've ever heard in my life. But
I have video of it of my own too.
But so yeah, man, we're out casting, and we're talking, and Frankie's just kind of like, hey, I kind of feeling kind of weird, and I'm like, you all right? And he's like, yeah, just I'm a little bit dizzy, and then he kind of got real, he started kind of slur a little bit, and I'm like, what the hell is? And I was like, Frank, and he just kind of went, out into la la land, and I was like, Frank, are you okay? And he goes, no, and then just goes down right in the middle of the fucking river. And so I snatch him up, I drop the rod, and I've got a hold of him, and there's 10 of the dudes just hanging out in the river, not 20 yards from us. And I'm like, hey fellas, come and help me out with Frankie here. They had a chair out there and stuff, so they drag a chair over, and we sit him down in the chair, and he gets his bearings back about him, and everything comes back all right. And so we go, and a little bit later, and do some casting, and then I start explaining some reading the water features and different stuff like that. And he's comes out with a really good casting stroke. I mean, just right out of the gate, which is not, I don't think that's something that you can always attribute to a teacher, especially when it comes to fly fishing. You know what I mean? You've got to have some sense of your body about you. You've got to have some sense of rhythm and timing, and understanding, when to stop, and paying attention is the biggest thing. But anyway, we did that, and moved around in the water a little bit, and I'm telling this whole story, Frank. Do you want me to keep doing this, or you want to finish it up?
You're doing so well. You just keep going, and then I'll just chime in.
I just want to make sure we hear from Frank on what it felt like to zone out and go into the water.
Which time, the fishing zone out, the zenness, or the almost done?
Both.
I'll be both.
BOF, both.
Okay, both. So yeah, so that. So actually, it's funny is that to kind of fast forward, when I came home, I actually looked it up, and I was like, that was weird, because that's never happened before, right? I was like, oh, maybe it's just the cold water and the fresh air. But I was like, hey, I've been in cold water before. It's not a big deal. So I looked it up, and it actually was considered a bout of elevation sickness. So for me, at my highest peak down here, I'm at 400 feet. So where we were, it was 2,600. And I drove 12 hours, took a shit ton of caffeine, got there at midnight and then started drinking like an idiot. And I was like, all right, I'm fine. And then it all just kind of hit me that next morning. So if it wasn't for Perry, though, with those liquid IVs, I probably did.
Oh, yeah, for
It was
sure.
awesome.
Perry was a lifesaver that whole time.
Shout out to Perry.
Like Perry was throwing liquid IVs down Frank. He gave Jacobs like an exorbitant amount of ibuprofen and God knows what else. After he didn't try to die in the river. He tried to kind of kill himself in the river, drinking like a fool.
You guys are doing a great job selling Rendezvous, man. I'm
Dude,
saying,
I'm telling you right now, like if this doesn't sound like the best time of your life, you're doing something wrong.
Hands down, like one of
Sorry, Luke.
I've done in a long time. But listen, guys, it's not a rager though. I don't want anyone to think that it is.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not thinking that at all.
No,
Look,
but
I'm pretty sure I got pictures of y'all. I got pictures of y'all doing keg stands in the river. So I'm
that was Jacobs. That's what we're talking about.
I got
there's
photo
no longer
proof.
allowed that has been outlawed. But all joking aside, though, once I got back to my Barons, David and me got back to business. As far as like me having like a good cast, like honestly, like I didn't even know like what I was doing though. Like, but David was just like, all right, cool, like let it like curl up, and once it comes to it's like apex, don't let it fold over, right? So I was watching it, and I was kind of counting 1, 2. He's like, have it like, kiss the water, 1, 2, and then lay it down, right? And then like strip, mend, strip. So like a lot of it had to do with really like, David's cues, and that I was just doing what he was saying. And then for me, for my mental state, like I had to attribute certain things to like conventional fishing. So, right. Yeah. So, trying to think, for example, like when he was like, oh, like I need you to like strip. And I was like, you mean like reel it in? He's like, yeah. So stripping is the same thing as like, reeling in. Obviously, like I'm not using that big reel, you're using your hand through your fingers. Right. And then, even like the cast too. Like, so for me in my head with like a leader, and then for like the flies, I was trying to like make the connection with conventional fishing, just so in my head, I can kind of know like what I was doing. If like that makes any sense.
It does, man. What I like that you kind of bring up, right, is when you start to learn to cast and you start to get there, you feel the whole thing, right? You start to feel like your arm is the line, and that's when you can really start to feel what you're doing. You feel the back, you feel the forward, and you feel it through your whole body, right? That's when you know how to cast, because you can really start to be just one with the full line, and that's the real, like you said, Papa. It's not necessarily something you can learn; it's something you got, right? And I mean, you can learn it, sure. But if you've got that wherewithal to be able to feel it in your arm and then let it become part of what you're doing, that's when you really start to feel and see, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, I'm also
and you're not gonna like Frankie was laying out 40-foot casts within 15-20 minutes of instruction. You know what I mean? Like he's laying out legit casts.
Yeah.
So it's definitely being in tune with, like what you're saying, with everything that you're doing, and understanding that the mechanic of it, the whip, you're stopping, watching your, you hear a lot of people when they're doing instruction and stuff about talking about watching your line. So you watch your line out behind you. Well, that's all more for practice than it is for, for actually using that on the water, because you don't want to take your eyes off of where you're casting, right? You don't take your eyes off the target. Otherwise, you're going to go all over the place. Like you get in the yard and you do this practicing, or you get out in the river. It doesn't, it's wherever. It's better to practice in the water, but for the sake of accuracy, like you're not wanting to turn and look back and watch your line out. It's the counting and being one with that entire process. You know what I mean? And so, and that's one of the other great things about it is how it kind of mellows you down, brings your mind off of everything else too.
That's probably one of the greatest parts about fly fishing, right? Is like you get so zoned in on this, you don't think about a whole lot else, man. And that's when it feels like you're throwing the line right out with your hand, and that's what feels great.
I could cast all day, not catch shit, and feel great.
Yep. Once I got into like a good rhythm, like I'll never forget. David's like, "Are you kidding me, man?" He's like, "I've never seen anyone do that." He's like, "You know what? You're good." He's like, "You're good. Go." And I said, and I'm stubborn, so I was like, "David, I'm not leaving this river till I catch a fish." Like,
yeah.
And like, and then I was like, and like after doing this, like for like an hour straight, I was completely zoned out. I was like one with like the water. I zoned out. Time did not matter. Just it was like next level. And like for me, always growing up doing like conventional fishing, which is cool. It's great, but like it's a lot different. So like for me, I guess I was focusing more because I had never done it before. So like I was completely in like another world. I was relaxed, no thoughts, just me, the line, and the water. And then I was lucky enough to catch a fish. And then David comes running over, Luke comes running over, like holy shit. And then like like I didn't realize that I actually strip set I didn't even know like what that was. I just did it like instinctually because David was like, hey, listen, for a trout, you're gonna pull up on it, right? For like a bass or something else, you're just gonna pull out. So and then as I pull, I happen to have the line, and I kind of did this, and then he's like, keep going, strip, and then I got it. Luke freaking ran over like soccer mom.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think we've got that video queued up right here. If we want to take a look at it,
Yeah.
Go and throw it up, Chad.
No, man, that's all you, bro.
First fish on a fly rod. Let's go.
Oh, love it. Hell yeah. Thanks, brother. Yeah, dude. Look at that, man. Woo. Hell yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah, dude. Little shit ever. Little red eye, man. It was badass.
I love it, man.
Crawfish pattern.
You can feel the excitement, man. I remember the first time I got a fish on the fly. It's a different feeling, man. And but before we go any further, we got to point out a few things. One, Frank, you're standing finally, so that's good. Good job, man. But
he legs back there, Justin.
But I also got to point out, Papa's fly fishing get up, man. Like that's
good play good. Good play good.
Yeah. I'd shout out the shirt, but the folks don't pay us anything to do that shit.
You can shout out them shorts, though, right?
Them hoochie daddies.
Yeah, I got those hoochie daddies on. I had never took them off. Well, I mean to change into a different color, but yeah. Yep, hoochie daddies all day.
Yep.
Lifty hat.
I didn't have mine on during it, which I got yelled at for that later. So I went and
you would have got more likes and follows with them legs showing.
I got so many more, and I can't wait though till I'm wearing them in 0 degrees in a week and a half. It's gonna be amazing.
So that day though, when you caught that, what were you throwing out there?
It was a jig, right?
It's just a crawfish pattern.
Okay.
I had gotten it. Do what?
Black and red, I think, right?
It was orange. Yeah.
Orange.
But it was kind of brown and orange.
Brown and orange. There you go.
Yeah, and like I had been the day before, I caught, I think 4 pretty decent smallmouth with that same fly. Like it was just what was working, but it was just a little crawfish pattern on a size 8 hook. I mean, it wasn't anything real big. Yeah, man, he was whipping that dude. That was the other thing that was pretty impressive about it too, was we were using a 7 weight, and then there was, that those crawfish patterns that they'll have the little barbell weights on the ends of them, which helps them nose down. And so throwing a weighted fly like that just right off the bat is pretty impressive too.
Yeah,
so that's a whole different. It's a whole separate, world when it comes to that whole thing.
I was trying my darndest though. When I first was like messing around with it, I was like, David, just don't stand behind me because I don't want to hook you or myself. So I was like,
yeah, nah, it was, man, like I said, it was good, but it, like, the whole thing was cool about it too was, like I was saying earlier, we kind of went into once he leveled back out, because we got out of the water, went and got some liquid IV in him and some food and stuff like that, and we got back in, did some practice casting a little bit more, and then got him over and got to explaining, the features in the water, like I was saying earlier, and understanding, the seams and where they're going to hang out behind rocks and all this and that and the other. And we'd gone to one spot and hit it for a minute, and I think he actually had a few strikes in that first spot. And then we moved around, and you could see like this giant ass rock that was probably about 1.5 feet, 2 feet under the water, and like where it kind of shelved off the end upriver from us. Then it went down about another 3 or 4 feet, and I like kick out off the end of that rock. The way the water's moving, like it's going to push your fly around the edge of it, and then you just kind of pop it back through along the side, along beside that rock. And it wasn't freaking 3 casts or so. It seems like it may have been more, but it wasn't very many when I got him around there, and he started popping back along the side of that rock, and freaking whammo, And so like he got like this full experience of, reading water, understanding lies, and all of that kind of stuff all at one time. It was a really cool experience on both ends, I think.
Frank, have you been out fly fishing since or what?
I have actually. So on my drive home, I actually stopped at Cabela's in Pennsylvania, and I called Dave. I'm like, hey, I'm picking up a rod. Is this good? I was like, I'm in, man. I was like, I am not going back home unless I have a rod like ready to go. So I made it back home. The next day I like put it together. I was like messing with it. I was like, hey, I think I called David. I'm like, hey, is this a good rod? I don't know, man. Is my line upside down? I don't know. I didn't know. But it was cool. And then I've been out like once or twice. We ended up catching 2 trout, and then I actually pan fried them in butter after I cleaned them. I think that we have a picture of that.
Yeah, go and throw them up, Chad. Oh, look at
beautiful.
They were so good, man. It was just like, it was simple, scales on, because apparently, trout has like different skin than like a bass, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to eat the scales on a bass, because that's stupid. But so like I had never made trout before, so I reached out to like a buddy of mine, and then I sent David a picture, and like they're both like, hey man, like leave the skin on, just pan fry it in some butter. I was like, that's it. Well, like, how do I know when it's done? And like, well, it'll turn white inside. I added some salt, and like, dude, it was incredible. Like, even my kids ate it, and like they were like, this is good.
Yeah,
it was amazing.
The skin's like chicken skin.
Yeah, it was, but like it was good. It crispied up and stuff. But like,
yeah,
down here it was all stockers, right? And like it was totally different, because like obviously I just learned how to fly fish on like this like river, like moving water, and like even when I fish like up north with a conventional, I'm usually on like the Hudson River, right? So down here it was like a local river where it's stocked, and they're super pressured. So it was more like sight fishing, right? There was like a funnel, and then like you could see all the fish kind of like doing this. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, really? This is going to be easy. I can just grab one of these things, right? So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, and I'm doing it, and I'm like, why are they not eating my fly? So a buddy of mine, like, and like he had, like, he's a lot more experienced than me. He's been fly fishing for like 30 years. But like down here, and it's totally different. Because he's like, so when they're all in their little channels, he's like, you actually have to like float it right in. And then and there was one, Casey, with you and John Hatton, where you called it like bonking a fish on the nose, right? So like I was trying to do that. I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit this fish right in the face. And like I'd hit one, and he'd just be like back, and I'm like, what? I'm like, am I doing something wrong? So I'm changing flies like crazy. I started out with like a woolly bugger, because I think that they're cool looking, and I realized they were way too big, because like they were eating these little things, and I like ended up with this little, maybe a caddis. It was really small. It had wings on it. It was real little. And like finally they were like hitting it, but like one of them takes it and he's like bites it, and I try to set him, he spits it out, and I'm like, this is really frustrating. I can see them. They're like, and like I'm sitting on like a retaining wall where like I could take my thing and probably hit one. So I'm like, all right, like, well, next time I'm bringing a treble hook or I'm bringing a net because it was getting a little frustrated. Ended up getting 2 though, so I'm thankful for that. But like, you know what? I underestimated how hard it was going to be for super pressured fish that I've probably been caught 1,000 times.
Yeah, well, trout are just, wild trout especially are about the pickiest thing on the damn planet to try to catch. But the trout, like the way that their mouth is constructed and the way they take and then move, like your hook set makes all the difference too. You'll yank hooks out of their mouths all freaking day long. Like you don't have to get super aggressive, right? And it's not like you're used to bass where and they just inhale everything and all that kind of mess. And so yeah, it's definitely a technique to it. But if there's trout, if even I'm gonna assume like you're saying, the stockers, if they're super pressured and just people throwing shit at them all the time, eventually they're gonna get picky also. And they have to. It only makes sense.
And then, I was like, now I see why some people go insane fly fishing. Like, and it's almost worse when I can see the fish. I'd rather not see the fish and just fish like a murky lake or something, just to see what I get.
Yeah, but it's like it makes it all the better. Like because, like I said, like I've only fished for they're not really technically wild trout, but they've probably bred in the wild, but their parents were stocked at one point in time in this place. But they get pretty picky, and so they'll duck and dodge, or they'll just sit there and watch, or they'll come right up next to your fly and take whatever's right next to your fly, and
I mean,
so when you finally land one,
Yeah, I definitely really enjoyed though fly fishing. Like I said, I definitely liked it better when I couldn't see the fish because then I was actually able to like zone out and enjoy it. Well, like it's funny is that then like my next time out, I was like, I'm gonna go back to conventional. I had this like little hole that like it's like a public spot, but it's kind of private, and like I know the grounds guy, so I'm like, hey man, I just need to go catch some fish, and I brought this little like 5'6" ultralight rod, and I was just catching a bunch of panfish. I think that there's a picture of that also. I probably caught like 15 that day, and then I saw this, which was to me was just a giant 1-pounder, as Casey would say. And so I see her, and she like swims.
It's a baby.
She like swims by, and I see her because there's like some beds around. So I'm like, oh, I guess I'm sight fishing. I like take my little panfish crankbait off. I throw on like a Ned, and I'm just like, whoo, and I get her, and I thought the rod was just gonna collapse. It was just like whomp, and like I reel her in. She like kind of broke off, and I grabbed her, almost freaking hooked my hand. But that was a good day. So like, I think a couple pictures of that somewhere floating around that chat stuff. But,
So Frank, we've hit on your fly fishing adventure pretty good, but just for my curiosity, like what's your fishing background? Like where'd you cut your teeth at when it came to getting into fishing in general?
So, living on like an island pretty much, right? My dad was always a pretty big, fisherman, like surf casting and stuff. So I learned, as like most young kids do down here by me, is snapper fishing, which is like, to me, it's equivalent to like pan fishing on a pond. But if you get into a school, like you'll pull up like 10, 20, 30 of them, right? Obviously, unfortunately it's not as good as it used to be when I was younger, because people now just keep them all. So I kind of learned on that. And then I have some family and friends up north, upstate New York. And man, I started doing like a lot more pan fishing and bass fishing. I fell in love with that. Like, I mean, I don't know. I guess there's just something about sitting on a dock and just doing like a bobber, a hook, and a worm, and just ripping up sunnies and bass, And then, so like I cut my teeth on saltwater, I used to do some like fluking and stuff like that, some stripers. But man, even now as I'm like getting older, I gravitate towards freshwater, even if it's like this, like a little, like dinky pond. If I can grab like a sunny or a bluegill or like a baby bass, I don't care. I'm happy, man. And now because of my kids, like I take my son with me, and that day actually, I took him 2 days later to the same hole, and dude, he was just pulling up bluegill nonstop, and he had a blast. Aside from us getting covered in ticks and all, but it was good. It was a lot of fun. I was
That's
on
awesome.
control, man. So he was all bloused up, so he was good. I'm like, just keep fishing. I'm just like flicking ticks off of him. But he had a blast, and he loves it, And it's funny is that his first fish he caught was upstate off a dock on the Hudson River. Caught a sunny, and like ever since then, it's like, hey, we going fishing today? We going fishing today? So it's cool, man.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah.
And now it's nice to have like a new love and a like new respect for fly fishing, right? It's just like going from like a spinner rod to a bait caster, right? It's meaning you're still fishing, but it's something new. Like my first time throwing a bait caster, man, I bird nested that thing so bad because I was like, yeah, this is fine, line enough and throw it. And like I'm like, all right, let me learn how to set my brakes and adjust it and whatnot. So like now I'm good, but you're still gonna like bird cast, and listen, it's bird nest. I'm sorry, and like even the pros do it, right, Casey? You
Absolutely
might not see it, but like they all do it. It's all part of it.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many times I was in a boat and there's like a lay down, like behind me. And I go back, I go, and they just explodes. And I'm just like, all right, well, I brought my spinning rod. Let me just transition to that real fast, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I know for me, it's always I'll get kind of over ambitious, like when the wind's blowing real bad. Say I'm on a good like jerkbait bite or something, and I'm throwing into the wind, and it's like, oh, it's not blowing hard enough. But man, you'll bird nest one every time. It doesn't matter. Don't ever if anybody tells you they do not bird nest a bait caster periodically, they're straight up lying to you, or they don't use it. One or the other. It happens. It happens. I promise you, I know how to set the brakes on one as good as anybody. You'll still bird nest one.
And I promise at some point I'm gonna make it down to you. All right. I'm putting it here on recording. All right. I'm coming
There
down.
it is.
That's it.
I'm gonna wait till you're actually on the plane before I like tell my wife at the last minute that some hoodlum from New York is on his way to stay at the house for the weekend.
That's fine.
We're also gonna try to do it one of these days, or I can catch one of those, tournaments that doesn't mean jack shit and go out there and take a fly rod on his boat with him and see if we can't whip some ass with the fly rod.
Come on, man.
Bass
I'm ready for it.
That'd be cool.
So that'd be awesome. So there's actually a guy down here who does it on the salt, man. He does strictly fly rod on the salt, and I just heard about him this summer too. And I'm like, oh man, like that'd be a cool trip,
Yeah.
See, I want to come up into Frankie's part of the world and go to like the St. Lawrence River and Cayuga Lake and all those big iconic smallmouth fisheries. Like those are some of my bucket list trips. Because in my opinion, like St. Lawrence River right now is the top smallmouth fishery in the country. Like what the Elite Series did up there this year, like that's the most century belts I've ever seen given out in a single tournament. And for those listening, what a century belt means is throughout the course of a Bassmaster Elite Series tournament means that they caught 100 pounds of bass. So they caught 5 bass a day over the 4 days that it takes to make it to the top 10 and ultimately to the final day of the tournament. They caught over 100 pounds of smallmouth, which, if you followed bass fishing for, any length of time, like that's just unfathomable to a lot of people. Like, electronics probably has a lot to do with that now, but just the way that these fisheries are being managed and kept up, it's unreal what, the size of some of these smallmouth that are up there in the St. Lawrence River and, in places like, St. Clair and all that too. But the St. Lawrence River is one of my bucket list fisheries that I'm going to get to really soon.
So I've actually never been up there before, but I don't know if I'm allowed to give him a shout out, but I'm going to. But Taylor from Fish or Die Baco was just up there actually recently, and he was fishing smallies. And I had a conversation with him, and he's like, let's plan a trip and go. So, boys, let's do it.
Hell yeah.
I will hook to the boat tomorrow and head that way.
All right. Let's
Unlike you, I'll actually show up.
Will you though?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get me a trip on the St. Lawrence River, I'll leave right now.
All right. Let's do it, boys. I'm
With it too, you were talking about how they're managing the fisheries and stuff like that, and I think I heard a guy say one time that I think he said like a 5-pound smallmouth will be somewhere nearly 20 years old or some crazy shit like that.
They're old.
No
Like
shit.
they're old fish when they're at 5 pounds or something like that. So I mean, for fish to have been in there that long, that speaks volumes to what they're doing. And like it, for me, I caught the biggest smallmouth I've ever caught. I caught this summer, and it was probably 3.5 or 4 pounds. It was a pretty good size smallie. And like first thing that goes through your mind is like, man, this dude's been here a hot minute. Let him out, come back, catch him next year. I made sure that I've got pictures, kind of studied the pictures and got a few. He's got some features on him that I'll remember if I ever catch him again. So that'd be pretty cool if that happens. But to know that fish has been there that long, and if you've got a place they're catching that many of that size, like they're doing something right, which is really good. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all here to do, which is conserve every bit of what we can of what we do for our kids, and everybody else's kids. I'm not selfish. I want everybody else's kids to do this stuff too. I got buddies that's got kids that want to get in the outdoors, and any chance that I can. I don't get it done as much as I'd like to. Obviously, I've got other engagements a lot of the time, but for those things to be available to everybody else. And so it's cool to see that stuff working that freaking well.
Yeah. And you'll know whenever I catch a 5-pound smallie or bigger, because it'll be like right there on the wall. 100%.
Yeah. There's a guy here in Oklahoma.
I'll get a replica made. I'm not going to do the whole, 30-year-old skin mount thing. I'll get a replica made, but there will be, it will be wall worthy whenever I get a 5-pound plus smallie.
Hell yeah! Now
there's a dude here in northern Oklahoma that I'm trying to get on here. That dude, he's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to a lot of just fish in general, but especially Oklahoma fisheries. But that guy he had folks this summer catching 6 and 8 pound smallies on fly rods and stuff like that. Just freaking monsters,
That's awesome.
It's just crazy.
Now, so
and strapper too, all out of the same river.
My big question is, I know that I can speak for Justin that Justin is going to be fly fishing right in a week and a half, Virginia. Now, Casey, are you going to fly fish or you're bringing conventional?
I mean, if I'm bringing my own personal stuff, it's going to be conventional. But I'm not saying that I will not pick up a fly rod if it is presented to me.
Justin, let's do it.
Beautiful.
If anybody trusts my dumb butt with their gear, I will gladly throw a fly rod. I've thrown one before. I just don't have one.
Bring your
I'll
waders.
hand it over, man. I'll hand it over just to get the video.
Leave your sinkers
100%.
at home though, Casey. All right.
Oh, that's just for never mind. I ain't gonna get into that.
Is it too soon? Is it too soon?
That I don't know. That whole topic just like burns me up too much to even joke about it.
I've heard you joke about it before, though. Come on.
Oh, I do, and that's what I want to. Every time I go in a tackle shop, like gearing up before a tournament or whatever, and I go by the the weight aisle, and there's those big egg sinkers and all that. I just want to make TikToks and stuff of like, well, gearing up for the tournament, it's going to be a good one, and just like grab a handful of those things.
Blow up.
But I'm just like, oh my god, I'll get crucified if I even joke about that right now, because dude, it burns me up what those guys did. I'll never.
Terrible, all jokes aside. I mean, it's terrible, but you got to make.
Yeah, I would
But
fight those guys right now if I could get the chance. Like it just not. I mean, I don't even fish walleye tournaments, but it's just that the bad rep that gives tournament anglers in general, of like people that would just cheat the system that much for some money, and do that to a fishery and to those fish and stuff. It just, I don't like that. I get out there and work my butt off as much as I can to try to do it the right way and conserve it, because like I said, I mean, I got kids in the house. Like, I want them to grow up loving this as much as I do. And if I'm stuffing weights down fish and killing everything that I catch just to cash a check, like, that means I'm not real good. And if I want to do this long term, like I want to, I've got aspirations to make it on the pro circuit. I want to be one of those elite guys, on the Bass Pro Tour or something like that. And you can cheat your way into short term gains, but I believe that it all catches up to you eventually in some shape, form, or fashion. And then when you got a camera in the boat with you, like, if you start falling off, then what does that say? I'm trying to do, build and learn to where it's sustainable long term, because this ultimately it's what I want to do. And just seeing people kind of, it probably wouldn't have been as bad if they didn't have the support that they did. But like, those guys, they had big time sponsors. I mean, they had boat deals. They were set. And I mean, they pissed it all away just to cash some checks, and look where that got them. And then the idiot went and got
poaching
deals and stuff too now.
Yeah.
Right. And that like, it takes away sport and why all of us got started in this, because we enjoy it and we want to pass it on to like our kids, right? Like you said, like I know that I've seen your boy in the boat, and like mine come out with me and like they love it. So it's like, I don't want them seeing that stuff, because like, I want them growing up thinking that that's what it's about, when really it's about like just enjoying nature, being out there, getting to, meet people like you guys, right? Like I said, like I wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn how to fly fish. I mean, eventually I would have just done it, but like to learn the proper way from someone who's been doing it, right? So it brings us back full circle to the team. And honestly, I'm like super stoked to, honestly, I've never met Justin or Casey in person. So that's going to be great. Seeing you guys at a rendezvous. So.
Yeah, me and Justin got to meet in person for the first time not too long ago. So it's
Salt Lake.
Finally happened. Salt Lake City, baby.
Yeah.
That's
easily
one. I walked up to him. The first thing I said to Justin was, "Man, you look way better than you do on the computer screen."
I was like, "Nice to meet you too, Casey." I was like,
"Nice."
Now I understand why you only show from your neck up. How about that?
That's it. That's absolutely right.
No,
that is 100% right.
But that's like probably one of the coolest things about this organization, right? Is it's very digital, right? But we go well beyond that, and everybody actually ends up meeting each other. That's why I'm stoked about this rendezvous thing, right? And that's, I don't know who's most qualified to talk about what rendezvous really is here. Not me. I haven't been there yet. Maybe you, Casey, Frank, Papa.
Me and David have been there so far, and I mean, dude, it's awesome. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, I was talking to David. I think we spoke on like seminars and calls and like freaking happy hours for like almost 2 years, hanging out, joking around, and finally, person, man, he gives me a hug, and it's like I know him for 20 years, and honestly, like now being like a team lead, I've met people from Pennsylvania, I've met people from everywhere, and like, man, it's been that way across the board. Like, so we're doing something right here. We're picking the right people, right, David? I think that you could probably agree with that, right?
Man, 110%. Everything about it exceeded expectations, and it really, really seeded everything that I thought this company was whenever I got into it. Like you said, like everybody, as soon as we got there, it was, big bear hugs, just good time, everybody laughing. Like it was kind of wild to go and meet somebody for the first time and not feel like you were meeting for the first time. You know what I mean?
Crazy.
And
it's crazy. Like,
yeah, and
like it's almost like
it's
one thing I keep running into is like whenever I go to these events and stuff, and you want to say like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you," but it don't feel right.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
man,
Yeah.
it's like I'll sit there and talk to somebody forever and realize like, man, we've never like, formally met.
Yeah.
I've talked to you for the last 2 years, through Zoom or whatever application we were on. So you feel like you know them, but you kind of walk up in the room and you pick up where you left off and keep going. And then you realize like, man, this is the first time we've ever even been in the same zip code together.
Right.
Yes,
And you can't walk up on a dude at somebody's house that you just met and start cracking on them the first time that you've ever met them, like you can these guys. You know what I mean? Like that's everybody here has that same mindset. They use the word a lot of being a like-minded individuals, and that's exactly what it is. Everybody, we can give each other a hard time. We all build each other up. We all kind of know each other's limits. If we even have any. And
Not a whole lot of personal space. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And man, like dude, like just thinking about it, I've got a pretty cool opportunity coming up with some of my people in my region. The same weekend as rendezvous, but by God, I am sure upset that I'm not going to get to go up there, and shout out to Carter McKenzie. I don't get to go sit and play nutshell 17 times in a row for him. And I'm pretty bummed about that, but we'll get our shot again. But, also that's the other thing too, is meeting people for the first time, but then also having, and having that connection and really, wanting to get back with the fellas. And it's everybody, man. Like there's not a person, and there's always a person, and there is not a person that I would not be looking forward to seeing again or meeting or spending that time with again. And that's the testament to, to what we're doing and what we're building up here. And to, getting in ground level essentially as most of us have, and seeing what it's turning into, like just, man, it gets me super freaking pumped, and every opportunity that we have to get together with folks, like it's just, I don't know, man, I can't say enough about it, and I can't really find the words for it right now either. Just the community is unfreaking real, and we're doing something really special, and I think it's a one of a kind opportunity for anybody that gets involved.
Yeah. And that's kind of what rendezvous is, the epitome of that, right? Like that's
exactly
where you get that opportunity to finally actually get face to face. And I think what you brought up that's so cool is you take it up running, right? There's no ego, there's no dance, there's no man, I got to feel a little awkward here. You jump right into whatever you're doing, and that's what's pretty. I had a killer initial kind of jump in with these guys. There's a guy, he runs the Mountain West, Chet. We'll probably have him on the show at some point. That dude hunts with the best of them, fishes with the best of them. Turns out he lived 20 minutes from me, man. I didn't even know, right? We need each other. We find out about this. We go jump into the river down here to Big Tommy. He took us down there, and dude, I learned more in that hour with that guy. And he was in my backyard for, I don't know, 5-10 years. And now it's like, now I've got someone that I can hang out with on the regular, right? And that's what this group does, man, is it gives you the opportunity to cut through the bullshit, meet some guys that are worth talking to, and just get out there and do the stuff, man. That's what's exciting.
Yeah. Well, that's like you said too, like the whole ego side of it, something else that I had said a lot, and other guys had said a lot too with the rendezvous. And like you said, that's kind of the culmination of the whole thing, is like you take 27 dudes clearly doing some drinking, on a river bottom in the middle of the mountains, and there's not one even iota, one inkling of an issue with anybody. You know what I mean? Like, just how do you do that without, paying attention to who you're bringing in, paying attention to the people that you have, and everybody being on the same wavelength? Like, it's next to impossible. You know what I mean?
Frank, I'm starting to fight with you this year just so you'll tase me.
That's fine. Whatever it takes, Casey. Whatever it takes. But I'm gonna wait until we're on your nice new boat, and then I'm gonna tase you. I'm gonna throw it in the water, and I'm gonna drive away.
It's insured. We're good.
I mean, I'll come back around. I'll come back around later and get you and check on you. I'm not evil. Yeah, like
I'll take the shit out of you and steal your boat.
He'd have to learn how to start it first.
I'll bring it back. I'll figure it out. I wasn't always a cop. You know, like being down there, man. For me, like it solidified I was like all in from the start anyway. But you know, you're always skeptical because like it's always like it makes sense. Like it turned out to be what I wanted it to be that I couldn't find elsewhere, right? And then just like being down there, just like solidified everything. I remember sitting there. Remember that first night, you know, around the fire, like we're all hanging out. I drove in down a freaking switchback that I couldn't see at midnight by like flashlight. I was like, I'm gonna end up in the goddamn river. I remember, you know, coming down there, hanging out, and like once it got settled, I was like, this is it, man. Like this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what this is it. Like I can't explain it. Like everything felt right. So I'm like super excited to see some old faces in person. Obviously, you know, I see you guys a lot. And like, man, I talk to like you guys more than I talk to like my own friends. It's crazy. Like I think last week I picked up the phone and called Justin. I was like, hey man, I have a question for you. He's like, yeah, what's up? Like, and it felt like I just seen him last week, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I talked to Justin more than I talked to my wife.
Yeah, I think I'm about that same boat too, man.
It's awesome, like
freaking sweet.
I'm
stoked for Rendezvous this year, man. And I think it's important at this point, right, to remind everybody this is a real thing, man. Like, so if you're watching this, listening to this, I mean, like, go check it out. Like Frank was trying to get to, this is real. Like, it's about as real as it gets. So I'm proud and happy to be a part of this, and I'm stoked for Rendezvous. I'm stoked to Papa. I'm going to jump in and try to learn something from your student. It sounds like, man. I mean, he's sitting there. He's like this professional caster now, so I'm kind of get out there and check that out.
Give me that. Right. I've only been out a handful of times, so.
It's gonna be fun. Wait till you start fishing like Chet and those guys, where you're fishing columns and 3 flies and worried about. Well, dude, they're not biting on a 20. Go to a 26. All right, cool, man. I can't even get that on the damn line, but let's go for it. But that's where
That's where you need the Chad goggles.
That's where you need the Chad goggles, man, and that's where you start to have a lot of fun, man. So wait till you get to that level where you're not even fishing to catch the fish. You're just trying to find them first, man. What column are they in? And, you know, is this hook too big or too small, like this big? It's a game changer, man. So it'll be fun to see you kind of progress into that category. That's probably one of my favorite things about fly fishing, man. You're never a pro. I'm sorry. Those guys call themselves pros, but you're learning something new every day.
Shit, I'm barely a beginner, man. I'm right at this point in time. I feel like I'm just dabbling. That's it.
Man, I'm 5 years into it, addicted to it, and I still don't know jack shit, man. Like, it's crazy the stuff that the depth of knowledge that you kind of gain over the years, man. That's why I love fly fishing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, you know, so big takeaway from this, not only, you know, is it a cool story about, you know, the way that these two were able to link up and Frank was able to get his first fish on the fly. But, you know, I hope that our listeners were able to take away the team element here, you know, the tribe that we are and how much fun it really is and how life-changing it can be, you know. So if that's something that, you know, that you're looking for and you feel like, you know, you need that in your life, you know, head over to huntlifteat.com, you know, to learn more about that team and put your application in. You know, we would love to sit down and chat with you and, you know, and bring you into this world and let you, you know, jump on this crazy ride that we're on and hold on because it's a blast. But also while you're over there at huntlifteat.com, make sure you pick you up some Fish Lift Eat gear.
Shameless plug.
and you know, and support us there, and you know, then tag us in it on you know, Hunt Lift Eat Official on Instagram, as well as at Fish Lift Eat Official on Instagram, as well as Fish Lift Eat Official on TikTok, and let us know about your story. You know, we got to hear about Frank's today, but how did you get into fishing? You know, your first fish, where you're at on your journey, like we would love to be able to feature that on our socials and everywhere else. So connect with us there and let us see what you're doing. But Frank, where can we find you on the socials?
So I am on Instagram, Bird Dogs and Barbells. So Bird Dogs _and _barbells.
Great. So something that has absolutely nothing to do with fishing on a fishing podcast. So
Does not, but like I said, I dabble, man. I do it all.
hey, everybody's got that starting point, and it's awesome. I really, I wish my first story, like first fish story, was as cool as that and as memorable as that, because that's that's something that you're going to keep with you forever, and that's cool that it was able to take place at a Hunt Lift Eat event.
Yeah,
for sure.
It was awesome. Super fortunate, and eventually that picture is going to be somewhere like right behind me, I think, of me and David with that fish.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead and throw it up one more time, Chad. Let us see it.
No, man, that's all you, bro.
First fish on a fly rod. Let's go.
Oh, love it. Love it. Hell yeah. Thanks, brother. Yeah, dude. Look at that. Woo. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's got me all excited for rendezvous now.
Oh yeah.
Well, Frank, man,
in my eyes too, boys.
Man, it as always. Every time we're able to chat with Frank, it's been a blast. Can't wait to get to see you here in a few weeks up in Virginia, and I'm sure some more good stories will come from that. And we'll have to jump back on here and do a recap after winter rendezvous. Maybe we can throw some cold water smallies up out of the river.
Hell yeah, let's do it, boys. I appreciate being on.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
Well, for all our listeners, we really appreciate you tuning in to us this Monday, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week. But in the meantime, y'all remember to keep them lines wet, and we'll catch you on the next cast. See ya.